Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
She is somebody that provides answers, insight. It can be therapeutic when you connect with a medium, and that's what she is. I've seen her do it. I've experienced it. We've had these weird synergies over the past couple of months during podcasts, of which I can't explain, but that's how it works. And it's not my job to explain. It's her job. I'm talking about Noelle Deane, who joins us once again on the program. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Very good. Lots of positive direction as we get ready for another Mercury retrograde, which is, we can change away. So pre-phase in progress right now. So all good though. All good. I want to share with everybody what makes you radically different, aside from the intuition. It's your other side as a therapist, counselor, which I find is a very interesting blend. I've talked to intuitives who have a past medical background, and that can help them when they're talking about somebody who may have passed, and can explain, the heart, the lungs, and things like that, which is all good. But you work here, and it's very different. I think it's really cool. It's like a cool arsenal to have underneath you. Oh, before we continue, disclaimer.
Thank you. The information presented on the podcast is educational in nature and is only provided as general information and not medical or psychological advice, nor is it a substitute for seeking licensed healthcare services. Thank you.
And there you go. So you've been saying recently that my dad has been popping through, and I'm not making this about me. We use it to illustrate, an example how the process and the work works. I've never really connected with him since he passed when I was younger, much younger. I ask for signs. I don't believe I get them from him, where I get them from others. Call it universe, call my mom. I find that kind of odd. I don't know, but you're saying there's something there. And you did give me a song that you said came from him. And that was Danny's song.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that song has come up while I've been driving a few times. I'm not even kidding.
Really?
Random song. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and that was a really meaningful song to you from a very specific event. And
it was,
it was. So, yeah.
And Dad connected. We can a parallel. We can say a parallel connection there. So yeah, it definitely resonated. And just again, completely random, kind of song for you to pull up.
But that's how it works. And yeah. So I hear you about your dad, and my sense from him this morning, and I'm starting to get, when somebody's energy comes in close, I get chills, like a particular kind of sort of somewhat all over chills, and I'm just getting them right now, like my arms and my legs. And I stick with the word mediumship for many good reasons, but I also just want to remind everybody that mediumship is like intuition with the volume turned up. So it's not some magical power that a few of us have and not everybody has. I've just spent a lot of time developing this. So I'll just describe what happened, and I haven't shared this yet with Steve, other than that I connected with his dad. So this is like in real time that we're talking about this. So I woke up around 5 or 5:30 this morning, and I was just thinking about doing the podcast, and your dad came to mind. And then I got a message. Sorry, I'm just remembering I got a message from my cat the other day, which was a little weird. So I'm going to write that down too. Anyway, but let's focus on your dad.
Okay.
So, you get these subtle things, and you think it's your own thought, but what you can use as a litmus test is it like kind of surprising and unexpected I'm getting this, because I wasn't thinking about that. So that's my first question is, oh, that's weird. Wait, am I getting that? And then I use myself as an energy testing instrument to double check. hey, am I getting this right? Is this really Steve's dad? That kind of thing. So anyway, he comes to me and I have this scenario in my head as if you and I are doing some kind of mediumship session. And the first thing he says to you in this scenario in my head is, your mother and I made some mistakes. And maybe it's the therapist in me, maybe it's the BS detector in me, probably the same thing in some ways. But I just stopped him. I was like, hold on. I didn't have a great relationship with my own father, and I've had to really work at my relationship with other family members. So I think it gives me some insight into stuff. And I basically said to him, look, you're kind of not owning your part. Bringing Steve's mom into this is saying we made mistakes. And I really think it would be more impactful to Steve if you actually owned your side of that. And part of why I'm describing this dynamic is that you may resonate with this as, oh yeah, that's totally my dad. When the more I kind of talk about this, like his personality. So when we go to the other side, we heal, we shed some stuff, but we are, like, the essence of us doesn't change all that much, it seems, at times. Anyway, we started talking a little bit more about this, and it was kind of me sort of coaching him. And I was like, look, I get that you don't want to feel blamed, because that's what felt like came up for him, is that he was somebody who didn't, it's like when you have a big mess in your house and you don't even want to start cleaning it because you're so overwhelmed that you're just like, oh, screw it, I just can't.
I just can't deal. Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the sense that I had from him, is that he was like, I don't know, kind of resigned that he could actually do better, and almost like a one-track way of thinking about things. So I felt like if I could talk to him a little bit, and I do this with other people who've crossed over, so this is nothing new or different. I just don't always do this, but when it feels appropriate. So basically I talked to him about, like, look, I understand about the shame. You don't have to go from blame to shame, and you're on that side. There's a lot of support over there for you. And look, there's nothing for you to feel shamed about. Steve better than I do, but I've spent some time with him. He seems pretty open about stuff. And when people own their stuff, when people really take responsibility and accountability for their behavior, it changes everything. It changes everything. So I was encouraging him not to stick with the idea that he will feel worse about himself if he owns up and maybe you don't forgive him, or then you blame him for something else and then he feels worse about himself. Like, it was so interesting because it seems like a very unevolved conversation, even though sometimes we think when people are on the other side, there's only love and everything is perfect, and it's really not. He still has to grow. He still has his own evolutionary process within himself.
Well, that's interesting to consider, because yes, we think it's all, sunshine, roses, lollipops, and on the other side. And everybody's together now. Everybody's happy. It's all good. But if you look at it in terms of afterlife, then that's just the energy is still there as it was, because now it's going to be transferred to another plane, if you will, another life. And if you believe in reincarnation, so I guess it would be reasonable to think that whatever somebody's feeling is now taking that here. And that's why, we have that lineage of, stuff doesn't go away.
Beautifully stated. And we have these lessons that our souls come here to learn faster or, harder lesson wise, because this is the stuff we have to learn. Like for me, a lot of it is self-doubt. And, the idea of faith, and where do you draw the line with faith and empowering yourself kind of thing. Your dad has his own stuff that he's working on. So anyway, at some point, we recognized a bit together that he had to think more about his impact on you at this point, rather than worrying about his own feelings about himself. And then I brought to him the idea, like, hey, a genuine apology would be great. And how about a calling card? Because Steve's been asking for signs. And so I got the quote from him: "I'm sorry for being a difficult person / dad for you over the years." And as soon as I got that, the song The Reason started playing in my head by Hoopastank. So I start hearing, I won't sing it and torture everybody, but I'm not a perfect person.
Yeah.
There are many things I wish I didn't do. And I can feel like the emotion. So one of the clairs, one of our senses is clair empathy. So we have claircognizance where we know things, or clairvoyance where we see things in our mind's eye. But clair empathy is you feel their energy and it's an intensity. And it could be love, it could be regret, makes me cry sometimes, certainly tears me up. And maybe you're feeling a connection with this because you seem like you're feeling maybe a little affected by this.
Yeah. And
And
I'm going to look at the lyrics of that song too. It's been a while. Used to play it
good.
played it when it
Yeah.
was a hit on the radio, but it's
Yeah.
been a while. I hear it playing in my head.
And I was suggesting, now this may or may not be the calling card, like the song that you get when he's around and wants you to know he's around. Like my grandmother has just an old-fashioned love song. And when I hear that, I know it's her. That I mean, I have several grandmothers. There's a lot of divorce and remarriages. I looked at the lyrics because I often do that when I get a song, just to see what part, kind of like you were saying about those scratch offs at the pub where you were getting your burger. You know, you want to see what stands out to you. So I did that with the lyrics, and
Yep.
the chorus was the part. And the chorus is, I've found a reason for me to change who I used to be, a reason to start over new, and the reason is you. And I'm feeling it again because I know he's here with us. And I had this moment of, and maybe this would be something you would think, Steve, and which is why it might have come to me, that you might think, well, maybe this guy is a little full of crap. I'm not quite sure. So I visualized your mom to check in with her. And I do this with my grandfather about things. And I got a thumbs up from your mom, like that this was genuine.
Hmm.
And
If I get in the car and that song is playing, Steve's going to have to pull over.
pull over, let
Yeah.
yourself cry, and let us
'Cause-
know next week how this
Oh,
goes. Yeah.
see, I'll be calling you.
Please, please do. I
'Cause
love
it's
this.
not a, you know,
Yeah.
um, the song is at least, I think, came out in the mid 2000s, I don't know, 2006-ish, somewhere around there, maybe before three. Um, so it's not like you're going to hear it all the time. So
Right.
we shall see on that one.
Yeah. And then, and this part was interesting because I was wondering, he was also being, if I could say, and I said it to him earlier, kind of stubborn, because I was like, look, Steve's asking you for signs. You could learn from Rosemary, your mom, how to give signs. And then I just had this sense from him, like he was just so stubborn. And I was like, dude, he's asking you for signs. It's like somebody calling and you don't call them back. Like, I don't think he actually understood that in that kind of way. And I feel like now there's like an opening to have a different kind of understanding. And then he showed me the words, I'm sorry that I hurt you so many times. And then he showed me, and this is often what happens. You described on this show before about being like maybe an early teen and being on this boat with your dad. He had this boat and you and your sister got to kind of fight over who wore the captain's hat. I see this visual of you sitting on this boat. You look to be anywhere between like 11 and 13. And I just see, as if from his perspective, this view of you, like he just shared something important with you, like he had a plan to do something and changed it, or something happened and you were just, the energy of you was just deflated and disappointed. And it was very obvious from your body language. And he really took that in. Like he replays that scene in his head. I could feel like how crappy I felt about myself, that I was the person to inflict that on somebody who was otherwise probably pretty happy-go-lucky. And then at the end, he said, because he's trying to avoid feeling really terrible about himself. And I can have compassion for that, as I'm sure all of us can. And then at the end, he said, owning, like owning your stuff, isn't saying I'm the worst person in the world, which is what I always wanted to avoid because I felt that way as a man sometimes, that I just disappoint those I love. Yeah,
Wow.
it's a big admission.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, and I only know what I know. I don't know because my parents split when I was very young. So therefore, I only know what I was told.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't see, and it takes two. I don't see both sides of that situation.
Yeah.
I'm three, then I'm four, then I'm five. There's only so much I can understand based on what I've been told. Um, Maybe he wasn't, as bad as made out to be, but I do
Mm.
know just what you said, disappointments and things like that. Um, yeah, that existed. And then it came to a point when I was probably 18. Yeah, I was working, had a girlfriend. I'm like, I don't need you. And that's where I gravitated away. And then out of nowhere, he passed a couple of years after that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
But even as you're saying, just as you said that, what I'm getting from him is that it all added up. Like his lack of interaction, like really being engaged with you, like it all added up. So of course you're like dismissive of him because it's
Yeah.
like, F it, I'm not getting what I need here.
100%.
And he's,
That I'm
yeah,
mirroring what somebody else is doing. If that's not important, then then you're not important. Um, and we
right.
all do that. Interesting. I'm going to share with you. I'll laser this down. Um, Last night I got some news. Not surprised, but um, it was a change. Door close.
Mm.
And a room for a door to open. Right. And my son, who's 18 at college, calls me right at that moment.
Hmm.
It was the weirdest thing because it, doesn't like randomly call. He's busy. Hey, you want to talk? I'll text him, whatever. Out of nowhere. I don't, that's weird. So the
Hmm.
time, I don't think there are no coincidences. So the timing of that was weird. Just weird. We had great conversations, all good. Uh,
Yeah.
Making plans and things like that. But I just thought the timing out of nowhere, like a random Monday night, then he calls, but at that moment.
Yeah, and what I'm picking up on, and if I didn't think I would ugly cry, I would let myself. But what I got from him is opposites. Like you did the opposite, that your son is connected enough to you to reach out because he's feeling this shift in your energy. He's saying this is a reflection of your effort. Like you really did the opposite.
Yeah, well, my son reached out to me. I didn't call him.
Right.
Yeah,
But with your dad, you were
yeah,
like, never
yeah,
mind. And
yeah.
now your son is like attuning to you in a way. So,
And interestingly, my son, my dad, birthdays, um, like 4 days apart.
hmm,
Yeah, right.
that's
And my
interesting.
mom and my daughter, one day apart. Weird,
Wow.
right?
It is weird.
Yeah. And I always felt um, the particular sign. My son, my dad, I had a girlfriend back in the day. They were the same sign. Um, I think that sign and my sign can have challenges
Hmm.
where I see that my daughter, my mom, that sign and my sign, not so much. Yeah, they can exist, but you find a way, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Just could be me, but that's kind of how I feel when I look at it.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. I just think it's weird that their birthdays are, and my relationship with my son, um, not the same as me and my dad, but I see similarities. I see similarities and good stuff. I'm not talking negative or anything
Sure.
like that,
Yeah.
but just the dynamics and the closeness and that kind of thing.
Yeah. And we recreate a lot of the stuff that's familiar to us. It
Well,
takes a
sure.
real conscious effort to not do that. Um,
Yeah. And that's
yeah.
subconscious too. That can be.
Oh, sure. In therapy, we call some of that we would call reenactment. But from a spiritual perspective, just as you were talking about the birthdays, what occurred to me, and I don't know how much this is, really true for your relationship with all of the people that you were naming, but you might have, souls reincarnate together. It could have been, that your mother was setting you up to learn some lessons that she was also going to be learning from. And then your daughter would sort of pick up where she left off. And just like with your dad and your son, I
Right.
was told that about a couple of people in my life. If I don't learn this from this family member, I'm going to get this new family member later that's going to make sure I learn this lesson.
Well, isn't that kind of the universal rule?
Hmm.
The universe has a lesson for you, and if you don't learn the lesson, it's going to keep coming your way, different shapes and
Absolutely.
form, until
Hmm.
you learn the lesson. And you can deny it and go in another direction, but eventually you're going to get there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And you want to, we're all just trying to do our best here and support each other, support ourselves. And some of these things are really tough lessons. And sometimes it seems like the hardest challenge you've taken on in this life. And maybe there's very good reason that you chose to take that on in this life. And, just like with
Mm.
your dad, and he has his challenges, it'd be interesting to know his next iteration. Like, what is he going to look to do? What is he going to try to really not recreate that he feel like it's my sense was he very much felt in certain ways like a failure as a dad. So, how is he going to work that next time to try to not remedy that, but to rebalance the karma of that? Or maybe the two of you will have another dance in that
Mhm.
next life together.
Because a lesson needs to be learned.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
really,
Something needs to be like resolved between
yeah.
the two of you.
You bring a lot of light to the fact that many of us think on the other side that it's one thing, but it really isn't, and they still carry hurt, embarrassment, shame, whatever might, all different types of emotions. It's all going on, and I believe that.
Mm.
I believe that, and that's only since um, I had this full realization that their energy is always around us,
Mm-hmm.
always around us. So why would it change? It's not like, I'm up on a cloud now. Everything's great. Fabulous, fabulous.
Oh,
No,
good
the
point.
energy is just the only thing that's missing is one thing, the
The body.
body.
Yeah.
That's it. So why would it change? I don't think it does. I'm totally on your page. Yeah, totally on your page with that. And everything else. That one, since we're talking about it today, for sure. I don't
Yeah.
see there's, I don't see it's like, you know, go to a place where it's all happy, happy. No. Can they be connected with others? I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and can they reconcile if there was a riff? Yeah. Why not? You could do it here. Why can't you do it in
Oh, yeah.
spirit? Yeah.
I'm planning on doing that more with my sister. I asked a friend of mine who's also a therapist and a medium to help me navigate that relationship to resolve some of our stuff. So maybe we don't need to recreate some kind of negative situation in the future. And my sister, according to my friend, and also what I've picked up from her, is very willing. So, and that's one of the things I really want to support people with is working through some of these kinds of issues with
Yeah.
somebody on the other side they had a challenging relationship with because it haunts you and you recreate it with other people here.
Oh
You've
yeah.
maybe read, oh gosh, what if I am going to reincarnate and the same crap is going to happen again?
Mm.
And there's
Well,
there's something to learn. There's just
yeah,
something
yes.
genuinely to learn. Yeah.
Yes, because why did it happen in the first place? Because there was a
Yeah.
lesson to be learned and it wasn't. So it's just going to continue. And like we said, we're out of
Yeah.
time. I can't wait to get in the car and see what's playing.
Come
Yeah,
through, come
I
through,
will.
Mr.
I'm
Harper.
not, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
Thank you for that, by the way.
Yeah, you're
Gives me a
welcome.
lot to think about.
I'm
Connect.
just really glad it happened. Yeah,
Hmm.
it was cool.
Connect with Noelle.com. If somebody has questions, want to make a connection, Noelle spelled Noelle. Connect
Yes,
with Noelle.com. Thank you for being here
my
today.
pleasure.
Super cool. Like
Yeah,
the insight is very clear from you.
good, good.
Yeah.
And if anybody wants a little drive-by,
Yeah.
hit next week, call in and we'll see what we
Ooh,
could do.
instantfeedbacksteve@gmail.com. If you
Mm.
want to chat, yeah, please
Or
do.
you have questions. Yeah.
Yeah, doesn't matter what it is, or if you're comfortable, leave your number. We'll call you back. We'll call you back
Mm.
next time
That
we
would be
get
fun.
together. Okay. All right.
Okay.
We'll talk then.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.